you're going to lunch today. So that will be or set 5. So it's unusual because of the shortened classes. So make sure if you know if you have early lunch, split lunch, or late lunch, all right? So ask around if you need to do that. Yep.
One quick announcement regarding the presentations at 9:45. Okay, middle school is not coming with Group A today. So that means, I think most of the advisors have said this, but I'll say it again. Mr. Mackey's homeroom is going to sit in the back, 2-3 rows back there. Pastor Hebner's group, Mrs. Staub's group, Mr. Kushel's group, Mr. Jakula's group, and Mr. Wine's group, you are coming back into chapel for the presentations, our orientation. Middle school is doing their own orientation day. So we have seats available. We might as well be live. The Sievert homeroom, we're in room 306. The rest of us will be watching with the link that Mr. Mackey is going to send. So make your way back to chapel at 9:40 if you are part of that or in Group A. Have a great half-an-hour break.
All right, I am doing a sound check right now to see if the classroom, I know that they got video because I saw all you guys coming in from a couple of the classrooms. But I don't know if they're getting audio, so I'm talking right now, so if you can, okay, or, oh good. Hooray, I don't have to make a fool of myself anymore, okay. All right, so the purpose of this is to go through some of the handbook rules and also describe the special things, the procedures that we've had to create because of dealing with COVID. So we'll do that. For some of you who are new students who were here yesterday, you heard some of this, but not all of it. For you returning students, I always have a slightly sarcastic comment. I know this is the most favorite time of the whole school year when Mr. Wine and I talk to you about school rules. But if you'll put up with us, we'll get through this, and then you guys can head off to going to classes and trying to figure out how to get to lunch and how that works. All right? Mr. Wine, are you okay with going first? As soon as he's ready. All right. Do we have his channel on stream also? And this is a little hot, but I'd rather have that than the other way.
Test, test.
Okay, I'm going to mute this one.
Okay. Find my glasses. Let's start with the handbook slideshow that I shared. Okay, good morning. Oops, I have to mask up here again. I'm going to be sharing with you the information from the handbook. Thank you. So I've just put some highlights on the screen for us to kind of work through for our orientation this morning. Those of you who are new here, my office is in the library. My email is there if you feel you need to contact me. Otherwise, Mr. Gibson, Mrs. Hopemuth in the library, somebody will be able to find me. Okay, so attendance is the first thing we would cover, and to be faithful stewards of our time. And that's one of the things God calls us to do, is to be faithful with our time. You have to be in school. So if I ask Zach, okay, why do we come to school? To learn. Okay, it's that simple. You got to come to school to learn. Most of you or all of you had the experience last spring with the online learning, and it was as good as it could be. And a lot of that depended upon how much effort individuals put into that online learning last spring. But it doesn't compare, everybody I talked to, and both in our schools and also in public schools, everyone I talked to said it doesn't compare to face-to-face in the classroom learning and teaching. So we're thankful that we're here, number one, and so we need to take advantage of that. Unexpected absences. You get sick. You're going to hear this from a number of people. If you're not feeling well, stay home. How many of you filled out the health questionnaire this morning? Okay. A lot of you did, and I saw a lot of hands nod up. How many of you realized that you got an email this morning at 6 o'clock? Okay. So you're going to be looking for that every day. We still have to figure out how to run the data on that, but today was kind of a test to make sure that everybody was on that. So make sure that you're doing that. That's part of our attendance responsibilities this year. If you're not feeling well, just stay home. That's part of that deal. And then make sure that you call into the office, and if you call because you're not going to be here, that should get routed to Mrs. Hopemuth, and she will take note of that. And then bring a note from the parents when you come back. There's going to be times during the school year when you're going to need to leave for a dentist appointment or some other appointment like that. We're going to follow the same procedure we've followed in the past. You need to bring a note from your parents, take it to the office or to Mrs. Hochmuth, one of the two, and they will write out a pass for you. It's a bright pink pass, and you need to take that to the teacher. If it's Pastor Hebner during one of his German classes, he'll look at it, he'll initial it, and then you also have to drop it off at the office before you check out. And then when you come back, you have to check back into the office. So make sure that you do that. Once you're at your dentist appointment or whatever, all of the professional providers will have some kind of a slip to verify your appointment. So remember to ask them for that, because that's part of what we're required to do as far as keeping accurate attendance records. Unexcused absences, I'll just read from the handbook. Unexcused absences include skipping class, sleeping in the morning, so that's not an excused absence, and any other absence not excused by parent or guardian. So you're expected to be here. This is your job, so make sure that you get up in the morning and get to class on time by 7:55. Next thing, cell phones. Last year, we had baskets and things where we parked the cell phones when we came into the classrooms. This year, for now anyway, we're not going to do that. And so you're really going to be asked to be very responsible with your cell phones and simply take them out of your pocket, put them on the desk so that they're there. And for me, if that happens, somebody texts you or somebody calls, your phone buzzes or whatever, and I know you're not messing with it, I don't have a problem. You had no control over that. That's why I want it out on the desk. If it's in your pocket, well, now I don't know what you've been doing with it. And so the teachers are going to ask the teachers to do that with the cell phones. Let me see what else I need to talk about here. Same as last year, students can use cell phones between classes, not allowed during chapel. iPads, tablets, watches, all of those things are treated as the same under this policy. So all of your electronic devices. Students are not to wear or use headphones or earbuds during chapel or class without permission. And then the one thing I need to remind everyone of is that there is a Minnesota state statute regarding misuse of cell phones and directly connected with pornography and other things like that. So be responsible because it can be under penalty of law, fines and possible jail time depending upon your age. It says cell phones are prohibited in locker rooms, bathrooms, any other place where privacy is expected. So make sure that, again, you're using your things carefully and properly. Okay, in hallways. You've noticed in the hallways we have tape on the floor and arrows on the floor, and our intent is to keep traffic going or moving in a way so that we can prevent a lot of congestion. And I was noticing as we were in this downtime for the last 20 minutes or so that there's a lot of congestion in the hallways. And everyone was masked up. I was looking at that. But what our intent is that if you're in the hallways and not at your lockers, then you're on the move someplace else to a larger space. So that means out in the commons, so you can space a little bit better. Cross hallway between 3 and 4, there's a larger space. Rather than I counted one group, we had 19 people in a group right in front, crammed in front of the lockers. So we're trying to avoid that. Number one, for health reasons. Number two, so that as people need to move in the hallways, they're not trying to get around like I was in the last 20 minutes trying to weave between groups. So the red lines by the lockers, I'm going to refer to those as the ditches. Think about this as a road. So you're in the ditch when you're at your locker. and when you're out of the ditch, you're on the road and you're moving. So move to those larger areas and congregate there and chat there. I'm trying to minimize those bunches of people in the hallway and the congestion that comes with that. So traffic flow, the hallway out here, the cross hallway between 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, one-way traffic going that way, except coming to chapel. Okay, then you can just use that hallway to come directly down to chapel. The other one-way, what our plan is then go out to the commons and come around this way. So it's going to mean, at least our plan, our thought is that it's going to mean there's going to be a few extra steps, but again, it's going to minimize the congestion and hopefully improve the traffic flow between classes. Any questions? Because that's something new. Okay. The other thing we're asking you to do is when you come in the morning, you can grab books when you go to your locker to get ready to go to class, grab books for 2 classes. So if your locker's an even numbered locker, then of course you're going to get your first hour book, but then you can come back to your locker before second hour, before fourth hour, before sixth hour, and eighth hour. If you're an odd number locker, then of course you're going to grab your stuff first hour for first and second, and then third hour, and then chapel time, the way we're doing this, and we kind of practice this today, everyone's going to go to homeroom after set 3, drop your stuff, and if you're group A and it's group A chapel, then you're going to leave your stuff in homeroom, come to chapel.
They're actually doing the entire homeroom and then coming to chapel. But they still should leave their stuff there, and we're asking the teachers to go back and open their homeroom.
Thank you for that clarification. Did everyone hear that? Could you repeat that again, Mr. Gibson?
So, for homeroom and in chapel, you're going to go to homeroom first, all of you. Then those of you whose turn is to come here, you'll come to chapel, but you will leave your books in homeroom. And then I'm asking your homeroom advisors to go back to your homeroom at the end of chapel and open the doors so that you can go in and get it. It's just a little hot, I know. So, anyway, hopefully you got that in your rooms also. But that's slightly different than what we planned about a month ago.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll work on this, asking for your cooperation as we move along and we progress through this new normal for us. This may change in a while, but this is what we're going to do for now. Okay, so as a dean of students, I ask that you would set high expectations for yourselves. This is a similar slide that I shared with your parents. So think about realistic goals for yourself and stretch to reach those goals at the end of the year. There's a few other things here that I'm going to just touch on here. Dress code. I don't know where that slide went, if I missed that one. Oh, it jumped way ahead. Okay. Right there. Okay. Lunchroom and commons. And when I get done with this, I'm going to jump to another slideshow that's going to show our plan for the lunchroom. And we'll have teachers out there to help kind of direct that during lunch. So I'll explain that in a minute. Dress code on page 33 and 34. It's pretty much the same as it has been. Just to highlight a few things here. The school policy is that during the school day and during extracurricular activities, students keep their appearance neat, clean, and well-groomed and modestly dressed. The principal and the dean of students make the final decision whether something is in violation or not, items that are inappropriate or but not mentioned in the policy. So we have maybe a dozen bullet points listed in the handbook regarding things with some detail, but Mr. Gibson and myself will make the final decision if there's something in question. So just a few things in those bullet points. Student clothing is required to cover personal and private areas. For the girls, shoulder straps. If you're wearing a sleeveless top, shoulder straps need to be at least 3 fingers wide. Keep that in mind. Fingertip length skirts. There's a whole list of things there that are deemed not appropriate. So look at those. It's on page 33. I'm assuming the student council is going to plan some dress down days again this year. How that's going to work as we work through the school year, especially going toward homecoming. We don't know what that's going to look like yet this year. So there'll be some things that we'll just have to kind of take as we go along. We're figuring things out this year. Masks are considered dress code. So if there's something that's inappropriate or offensive on a mask, don't wear it, because that's considered dress code. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm looking around, I'm not seeing anything that is concerning for me that I've noticed yet today. And when you wear your masks, the nose and the mouth should be covered. And I know it's real tempting because it's tiresome, it's wearisome to wear the masks all the time to do this, but then you're only covering half of what you're supposed to be covering with the mask. So pull the mask up, make sure nose and mouth are covered, except in those classes that have been mentioned already where you're able to space appropriately for FIAD and other things like that. Page 34, see if I can do this with only clicking one slide. Yeah, okay, I'll just mention it. Page 34 is our policy concerning drug and alcohol, tobacco and vaping. St. Croix campus is a tobacco-free, smoke-free, vape-free zone. So I'll keep that in mind. And again, this year we're planning to have our team with the drug dog come on campus twice a month. So you'll be seeing him with whatever dog he's bringing now. And they will be sweeping the parking lot and sweeping hallways, lockers. They do those two things every time. Sometimes we'll be doing the dorms. Sometimes we'll be doing locker rooms in other areas here on campus. And there will be times, those of you who have been here, that I'll ask a classroom to step out into the hallway. And that's part of what he wants to do, part of the training for his dog. And also it helps us to randomly choose some classrooms just to do some spot checks, and especially with the younger kids that they get used to seeing the dogs. Okay. Social media. You've probably heard this enough. You can probably do your own version of what this is. Just be aware. Be aware of the dangers involved with social media. There's a lot of good. Dr. Russ mentioned that this morning in our chapel devotion. There's a lot of good that can come from that, but there's also a lot of harm that can be done. In my experience over the last 4 or 5 years, the most frustrating, most difficult, and most hurtful discipline events that I have to deal with are social media stuff. Because it's always easy to be on your phone or on your computer and type something nasty and hit send. And once you hit send, you can't take it back. So I'm just asking, that you respect one another and respect those platforms, whatever the platform is, and use them for positive things, for encouragement. If it's something that you're angry, it's probably not a good time to be on social media. And I know that's when we feel we need to have an outlet and we need to do something with that anger. Go for a run. Okay? Call somebody that you can trust that will hold you accountable. Don't grab your phone right away and start texting or going on other social media. Already talked about that. Anti-bullying policy, and I should touch on weapons policy. That's on bottom of page 39. The law deems anything that could be used as a weapon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a knife or a gun or something like that, but the law deems anything that can be used as a weapon. And we shouldn't, it's illegal to bring weapons on campus, and we just shouldn't have any of those things, so just be aware of that. And then the anti-bullying policy on page 40, it's a Minnesota, again, statute, that's the law. When it's a statute, 121A.031. Procedures, I'm just going to read those. Incidents of bullying should be reported to staff, and the staff will report those to myself or Mr. Gibson as soon as possible. And Mr. Gibson can back me up on this. When I find out about a case of bullying, I am like a bird dog on that. I get into people's faces and I contact parents and I try to figure out what's going on before it continues to boil and fester and grow. The staff will record details and share those with myself and Mr. Gibson. Dean of Students will inform parents and all involved in the incidents. Serious cases, you'll just by default be meeting with us. And if necessary, we'll bring the local police and other authorities into it. And we've done that in the past. So just, again, it's always one of those things that's easy to do on social media. And stay away from that. Again, find somebody who you can trust that will hold you accountable. It's a big thing. I have a couple people that I know if I'm really frustrated, I can go and I can kind of vent to them, and they'll hear it, and then they'll take a step back and go, but did you think about this? And that'll help me kind of process through that anger and frustration, which is very, very helpful. So I'm saying this so that you guys can find those friends that will help you do that, because that's healthy. That's healthy. If the bullying behavior doesn't stop immediately, the result will be suspension or expulsion. So hopefully we don't have to do that. And I have one more, talked about that one already. Then this, I shared this with your parents as well. Your school is not a bubble. Instead, St. Croix Lutheran Academy is a harbor where students come to learn. You know, Zach reminded us of that. But also to be strengthened, to be forgiven, and to be restored when we fall, to be transformed and prepared to go on out into the world. And so our prayer is that you will take with you the foundations rooted in God's Word that will enable you to face those joys and face those storms of life as you leave school. Those very foundations hold eternal promises from our God for all. So put your arms around what we have here. Embrace the truth of God's Word. Let that be foundation in your life so that you can always come back to God's Word and use that as a kind of a measuring stick and going, yeah, I didn't do really well today. And go to the Lord and ask for forgiveness. So, any questions on the handbook stuff? Okay, very good. Let's go to the lunchroom. Shared this with the new students yesterday, so they already saw this. It's coming. Basically, while we're waiting for those slides to come up, here we go. You can see here kind of a representation of what the Commons looks like. The tables are the rectangles in white. The red lines are the spaces between the tables. So our intention, in order to do the spacing the best we can out there, is to leave that space between the tables. So don't push those tables together. The yellow, those are the aisles where you can walk and get to the tables. And then, if you go down, if you've been down to the end of hallway 3, the maintenance guys have put a sign there, lunch line starts here. We have a bout with 3 lunches, and we're going to split them early and then a split lunch, which means some of you will be going to class for about 20 minutes, then you'll be coming to lunch, and then you'll be going back to class for 20 minutes. So that's going to be the split lunch. Number of students, we have about 150-ish in each section, and so we need to have somewhat of a plan in order for seating, and because there's a very little amount of time between the end of early lunch and the beginning of the split lunch, we also have to provide a way for the maintenance guys to get some tables cleaned. And so it doesn't show up super well here, but I'm going to show you where we're going to start seating. And so you're referencing the auditorium, you're referencing hallway 3, hallway 2. And so the first section is going to be in that section that shows up there in pink. So especially those of you who bring cold lunch, I need you to go to this area and fill those tables first, because you'll be able to go right to the tables. So that's where you're going to go. And that'll be the first section then that'll get up and allow the maintenance guys to clean. And then we'll just kind of work through the sides. The next section will be in that light blue. And the last section there will be in the yellow. So we're going to do that entire left side as you're looking at the screens. Get that entire side filled and then go to the other side. And kind of do the same thing. And then, as I said, we're going to start cleaning from that first section that was seated. Now, when you guys are done, throw your garbage away, and then kind of disperse into the hallways down toward the main office and down toward the middle school office. Stay out of the hallways, but you can use the bathrooms and different things during that time too. So the maintenance guys can start cleaning. If you can see that. Those tables first and those tables second, so that when split lunch comes in, then that's the first section, second section, third section. Same here for those who are looking here. So the maintenance guys can come in and get those tables cleaned first, so that when the split lunch starts coming in, that they have a spot to clean, or a spot to sit that's been sanitized. And we will have teachers out there to help move through that, and we'll ask you guys just to cooperate. After a couple weeks, I think it'll become pretty normal for us.
You let them know the plastic trays go on the wire carts.
Okay. Something new this year is there's serving trays that you're going to grab when you go through for hot lunch. Do they have those in the dorm before? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, there's serving trays. There's black and red serving trays. In that center aisle here, in that center aisle there are 2 wire carts. Put those plastic trays, those serving trays on those wire carts when you're done. Don't throw them in the garbage.
I muted it, so, okay. The other thing is that we still have not figured out how to sanitize microwaves after each person's used it. Now you might think about, well, didn't you do that before? Those of you who use microwaves know that we didn't do that. We did it after every lunch, but not in between. And so we're trying to figure out a way to get microwaves for you that doesn't create congestion and can be cleaned, but that's going to take us a while. So just so you know, right now the microwaves aren't out there.
Okay, so if there aren't any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gibson and let him.
Pastor Egan, would you take it next? Sure. I'm going to turn this on.
Let me turn this one off for now.
Okay. Hello. Sound check. How's everybody doing? They can probably do it. I only have like 4 slides. If you guys can find the guidance presentation, that'd be fantastic. There we go. I'm Pastor Dave Hebner, Director of Guidance, and I would like to tell you a little bit about the counseling and guidance services that are offered for you here at St. Croix. Change to the next slide. First, I'll talk about college and career counseling, and there's information in the handbook about this as well. What we like to say, that you haven't heard this phrase before perhaps, but this is what we like to say, is that students are the owners and drivers of their own plan. So as you're looking to go to college or prepare for a certain career, you're in charge of that, but we as the guidance team are here to support you. We're not going to tell you what you should do with your future, but we'll help you and support you along the way. The guidance team members include me and then Mr. Drew Cuck. So Mr. Cuck is middle school teacher, as you know him, many of you, but he also now has a Minnesota State license in school counseling and a master's degree. So with that, he's bringing a lot to the table. He's really going to help us to be proactive as we help you in looking at your career in college, searching, and those kinds of things. And then Mrs. Amanda Tess is in the guidance office. You know Mr. Tess, and you maybe know Mrs. Tess she's in the office in the chapel hallway. She shares an office with me. And then Mr. John Brennan, many of you know him. He's our District 197 non-public school counselor. We have a comprehensive guidance program in mind for all of you. Notice that there will be some group meetings this year for all grade levels. In the past, we maybe didn't do as much with 9th graders, but we'll be doing that a little bit more this year, getting you introduced to it. But you'll have multiple individual meetings with one of us during your junior and senior year. Seniors, just so you know that we're starting that this week. Pastor Enter may have mentioned to you already that Thursday's class in your Bible knowledge or your Religion 12 class will be dedicated to talking about your career and guidance stuff. You missed out on some of the things we would have done with you in person in spring, so we'll catch you up on that, get you back into Naviance, make sure you've got that ready to go, and we'll talk more specifically with you in your classes about that. Sophomores, you can look forward to an individual meeting with one of us in the spring of the year. Next page. The Naviance program, and I think I used that word already, is an internet-based all-inclusive guidance tool. Because of how the spring ended, many of you are probably not as familiar with that as we'd like you to be, but we will walk you through that again, make sure you have all your login information so that you and your parents can have a look at all kinds of different things that it offers. One of the things that you will be doing, if you haven't yet, is a personal interest inventory. And you can, if you have Naviance access, do that on your own anytime you want to, but we'll encourage you to do that and show you how. There's also a college search program through Naviance that you have access to. The college application process, we'll walk you through that so that you know exactly how that should be done. There's also financial scholarship information we can show you through Naviance. Lots of things, lots of tools that Naviance will offer you. Hopefully it'll be as easy as logging into your school Gmail and PowerSchool that you're learning. You'll be able to do that with Naviance as well. The X2Vol is the term for our recording of your service hours. Pastor Enter is our go-to guy for that, to help you with and encourage you with logging that. If you're doing any kind of service at all where you're not getting paid to do certain work, keep track of that. For now, just keep track of it on a piece of paper perhaps, and once we get you logged into this, you'll have an app on your phone, and you can use the app to log in hours very quickly, send it to the person that's supervised, and you'll get credit for those on your transcript. The homeroom advisor's role is to help you work through the classes that you choose now, moving ahead to the next couple of years toward your career and so forth. Standardized testing, you'll hear more about. Just watch the announcements for that. Everybody in grades 6 through 10 will be doing a standardized test at some point during October. And then watch for, on the very bottom of the screen, you see the thing about PSAT, ACT, and SAT testing. Many of you know that colleges have kind of gone, many of them have gone away from requiring that for entrance into college, but it's still a good idea to take them if you can. We will give you information about how and where you can maybe test right here on campus, and then when you might want to register to do it at another school at some point in time. And then the next page, please. For personal counseling, so that was the guidance part. Now the counseling part of this is that all of your teachers are called ministers of the gospel, and we care about you. We want to minister to you in whatever way we can, so we're there to listen. Come and talk with us. If you got anything going on in your life that you feel you need some support on, we will help you with that. Any kind of spiritual things that we can help. We have 3 pastors on staff, Pastor Sievert, Pastor Enter, and I will help you with anything that we can there. And then I put in bold and in italics, Christian Family Solutions. It's also called Wisconsin Lutheran Child and Family Service. They have kind of a double name. But they provide on-site counseling services with professional psychotherapists. And so if you'd like to have some help and talk with somebody, you've heard lots of things in the media about, let's talk about our mental health. You know, don't hide it or be ashamed of it, but talk about it. Really good idea, especially with the pandemic that's been going on. A lot of us need some help to just deal with our emotions. So you have a great opportunity to do that right here on campus with the counselors that come to St. Croix. They're here as much as 3 days, maybe even another half day a week. If you'd like to make use of that, know that your first 5 visits are covered by a generous grant, so your parents don't have to use their health insurance to pay for those first 5. And then if it goes beyond 5, then we ask the insurance to help cover that. If you'd like to connect with them about that, talk to your teacher, your homeroom advisor, your Bible class teacher, or me directly. We'll get you started in that as you need it. And then one more slide. Here's a really good encouragement for you. We tried to do this with freshmen as much as we can at the beginning of the year, but I would say with everybody, if you've not done one of these before, it's called the GAIN. That's an acronym for something. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's kind of an intake evaluation for how you're doing emotionally. Look at the bottom line on my screen. Think of it as a baseline test for your emotional health. If you're in sports, you do a baseline test for concussion. It doesn't mean you have a concussion or you have something right now. It's just a baseline. Where are you at? So if something happens, we know how to gauge that. Same thing with your emotional health. It's just something to go through to say, yeah, life is good here, but maybe in this area I got a concern. It will help you to it'll inform you and your parents about that, and then we can take the steps that may be needed to give you help as it may be appropriate. Okay? That's what I have. Thank you very kindly.
I'll go quickly. Mr. Wine touched on some of this stuff, but it's good to be reminded. So here we go. First, friendly tech reminder. I've been getting emails all morning from some of you. If you can't get into Google, if you can't get into Power School, I'm the one you email, please. If you say, I don't have my Power School stuff, make sure you check your inbox first, because I found some emails, 2 students who said I never got it, but they got it last Thursday, so make sure you check. It's going to say from St. Croix Lutheran Academy. That's from me, but it says Power School login info. So come talk to me if you need either of those passwords reset. All right, number 2, whether you remember it or not, this goes with Mr. Wines, you all signed this thing, the acceptable use policy saying I'll use school resources, network, etc. For good stuff, for things I know I should be doing appropriate things, okay? So you all signed it, just a reminder. I brought this up last year too. These are the top 10 passwords online. Don't use these. Don't use these. Oh shoot, I gotta go change one now. No, don't use these. Don't use these. All right, moving on. This is more philosophical in nature. If you think you're good at this, you're not. You're really not. People aren't, and I know we're at a school where we say, bring your own device. And you think, well, of course I can have this open and 40 tabs and all this other stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean you're doing things well, so let's just keep doing things well. Okay, And then this is just my one little last warning. Know that this is happening now. Okay, for the decisions you're making right now with digital stuff, colleges are looking at that. They may be looking less at test scores, but they're looking more at this stuff. And if you want examples, I Googled yesterday like Instagram apology, and here were some of the headlines that came up. I took out names, but these are like 4 years old in some cases. And you see the people saying, well, I was in high school and yeah, it's a thing, okay? You might be asking, Mr. Tess, I know that you and the other teachers also made mistakes. I know you did. So what's the difference? This is the difference. Ours won't be etched in internet history. They won't. Okay, so let's just keep thinking about that as we go. My last encouragement, and I think I'm under 3 minutes. My last encouragement is, we're really happy to have you back on campus, and tech is great, but people are really great too, and make some good relationships. Technology may help that, may hurt that, but remember that too. All right. Next.
I don't have any slides because mine's not going to take too long. Number one of the things we had to kind of adjust because of everything going on is how we use the locker room. And I'm sure you've heard this. Locker room is changing only, so you have to bring a bag with your stuff. At the beginning of the day, if you want to take your stuff into the locker room in your bag and put it in a locker in your bag, that's fine. It has to go home at night. That's the key thing. So everything that you bring to practice in or play or go to PE in or anything has to go home and be washed. So just remember to do that. Bring a lock. If you're going to leave something in the locker room, still bring your own lock and take care of it, but it's changing only. You may use the bathrooms in there as well, but no showers or anything like that. Second thing then, very quickly, as we talk about representing school digitally and doing all these things, even though a lot of our sports have been kind of taken away this fall, there are still some that are going. We're still planning on moving forward in the winter. So I just want to remind you of behavior at games. We're getting better. However, there's one thing I always hear is, well, other schools do it. Great. Just because other schools do it doesn't mean it's okay. And so we want to work really hard at 3 things. Number one, respect the officials. Okay? The officials aren't reffing games to be yelled at by high school kids. Okay? Or adults, right? In fact, that's why they're quitting. We have a shortage of officials in the state of Minnesota. And so getting good quality officials is very difficult to do because they're all quitting because they don't want to get yelled at. So remember that. Number 2, respect the other fans and other players. Okay, when I watch us yell at the other players, I ask myself, what would I feel like of a parent if that was my child being yelled at by that fan section? And that would make me very upset. So just remember that. Don't talk to the other players on the floor, on the field, or anything like that. Don't talk to them. Cheer for your team. That would be a positive thing. And then we just want to remember to represent St. Croix and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in everything we do. If that all falls in line, we're in good shape. The last thing I'm going to ask are those that are in here, and you are on a junior and senior, and you're on our Crusader leadership team. If you could stand up real quick, please, because I see some of you. So go ahead, stand up. Those who are on the Crusader leadership team this year, please stand up. Please stand up. There we go. Take a look around, okay, at who this is. And then there's some back in the homerooms. That's fine. Stay standing. Because if there are issues, I'm coming to these people to talk to them, to say, hey, here's some issues. If you see issues, these are people you can go and talk to and say, these are issues, right? So please do that. I'd ask that you do that. And then also, those who are standing up, I'm watching you even closer than everybody else because you're on my leadership team, and I'm telling you how to do things and how to lead. And so if I see something, just because I'm watching you very, very closely. So we just are really doing a good job with that. We just want to get a little bit better, okay? All right, thanks.
morning. For those of you that don't know, I'm Dr. Rachi. I'm your academic dean. We're going to go through a bunch of things. I'm not going to get through all of them today because of time. Just a couple of little comments. First, why are you at school? Everybody, why are you at school? Okay. That is my job, is to help you focus on that and to help the teachers focus on that. That's why this school exists. That's why this building exists. Everything is for you to learn. You're learning about three things: about your Savior, about the world you live in, and about yourself. And so through the process of school, you're going to keep those three things in mind. As you do that, and we think about guidance and where you want to go to college, what do you need to go to college? Somebody shout it out. What do you need to go to college? I heard somebody say good grades. You need money too. Good grades is one of them, but that's not what I want you to focus on. What you need to go to college and be successful is good learning. So as you go through what you're doing with school, don't focus on your grades. Focus on, am I learning what the teacher's talking about right now? Do I understand what they're saying? And if you don't understand what they're saying or you're lost, you need to ask questions immediately, because you don't want to wait. So how do you ask? You can raise your hand in class. If you're too embarrassed to do that, you can ask them after class. You can email them. You can use Google Chat. That's open for everybody. And I do want to encourage you to use Google Chat to get in touch with your teachers. It's a little bit easier and quicker than email and easier to keep track of. So make sure you do those things. So if you have questions, focus on your learning. Make sure you know what's going on. And if you don't, ask. Don't wait. It's your responsibility to do that. We can't read your brains. If we could, we would, but we can't. So we need you to communicate with us on what your level of learning is and if you need help. Now, the one last thing I'm going to talk about today is on schedule changes. There aren't any. So if you have an issue with your schedule, you always talk to your advisor. But if you're just looking to change classes, that's been closed. So that's not going to happen anymore the rest of the year. Okay? If you want a different class, put that in mind as you think about signing up for classes for next year. Are we good, Mr. Gibson? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Rachi. We're trying not to keep you here too long, so I cut the stuff that I was going to talk to you short. But here's one thing. Sometime this week, your homeroom advisor is going to say, here's a sheet of paper saying that you agree with what's in the student handbook. So skim through the table of contents, and if you see topics that are concerning to you, and we didn't talk about it, or you didn't talk about it in homeroom, look through it and talk to Mr. Wine if you have a question on it, because we are asking you, you have to sign it to be able to go to school here. So please just do that. There's lots of little things that you can look at and go, okay, no big deal, they just had to tell us. But just look through that so that if you have any questions about it, you're ready to sign that form when you get that, okay? One last thing we didn't talk about with COVID procedures is in your classroom, we need to clean between classes the desks that you sit in so that they've been cleaned before the next group comes in. So we've asked the teachers to stop about 3 minutes early, have you stand. Let's stop. We've asked the teachers to have you grab paper towels. As you come into class, you'll see dispensers in each room. Sit down, you have it there. When we got about 3 minutes left, they'll have you stand. They'll come by and spray the desks. When they get done, they'll have you start wiping them down. If they forget, they have to do it themselves. Being one of those airhead guys that forget all the time, I'm going to ask people in my class, somebody's going to be responsible for reminding me. So help your teachers out with that. We'll be practicing it. It's not going to work perfectly, but we're going to see if we can get better. And finally, with all of this stuff, on Friday, I'm going to sit with the faculty and I'm going to ask the student council to talk to me about some of our procedures and see how they went and if there's any things that we need to adjust. Now, some things we'll have to do even if we don't like them. Even if I don't like them, we still have to do. But I know that we are evaluating how things are going and we'll change stuff that aren't working right for us and still keep us safe. All right? So, you're going to look around to see how set 5 goes for lunch. And today, set 5 comes after 2. That's that special St. Croix math, so it's going to go 1, 2, 5, and that's lunches. So look for whether you go to early lunch in class, whether you go to class, lunch, class, or whether you go to class and then late lunch, all right? So that you're ready for that. We start classes at 10:43. Any other announcements from the adults here? You are dismissed.